Welcome everybody to the August 2022 Roundtable. We're very excited to have you here. I'm Barbara Derrick and I'm the interim executive director for Smoke Free SC. And we're very happy that you signed up for our roundtable today. I want to encourage everybody to join our tobacco listserv if you haven't already. There's a link on our website and we'll put it in the chat box. And just to let you know, we will record this presentation and it'll be on our website along with all the other roundtables in about a week. So welcome. I'm going to turn it over to Tara now.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us this Friday morning. We appreciate you spending your time with us before your weekend begins. As Barbara said, today's meeting is recorded. We post it in many places, YouTube, our website. We post the slide deck, assuming the presenters are able to share that on our listserv as well. So it's a beneficial group to join if you're not a member. And like Barbara also said, we'll put that link in the chat bar. I am Tara Bell, the Community Engagement Coordinator with Smoke Free SC, if we haven't met before. And again, we're excited that you are all here. We have two different groups presenting today. Beth Johnson from the American Cancer Society is going to present first, and she's just going to give us an update, and I'll let her introduce herself. And then after Beth presents, we have two people from Rescue Agency who are going to talk a little bit more in detail about SC DHEC's youth-focused campaigns. So again, thank you all for joining us. This is recorded, and we will post it soon. And Beth, you can go ahead and introduce. I'll end my screen sharing, and if you need to share, just let me know.
Yeah.
Thanks, Beth.
Good morning. Thank you. No slides for me, no screen sharing. Just a quick update, hopefully a quick update. I've set my timer, so this will be quick. I'm the Government Relations Director for the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, and it's so good to see so many of you on the call. Well, Tara, I could see them. Now I can't see everyone. I'm only seeing me, but it's good to see faces anyway. A few quick updates. I just want to really give a big shout out to our local communities and the coalitions that are doing such good work. And so Dr. Keeley is at the top of my screen. So big shout out to the folks in Rock Hill who are just really pushing through and doing some great stuff with local tobacco retail licensing. Great coalition. They are, they're kind of like the dream team up there. So great job, Dr. Keeley and the team in Rock Hill. Wanted to mention a couple of other local communities that are doing some really good work and important work. You know, you guys know that we don't have a statewide tobacco retail license. And so what we have been working with local coalitions, if they're interested, if they feel like the timing is right for their municipality, is to move ahead and trying to obtain a local tobacco retail license. And so Dr. Keeley is doing that in Rock Hill. And then we have Breathe Easy Tri-County down in the Charleston market, and they are working on a flavors and tobacco retail licensing campaign. It's a great group. It's being led by the Center for, I always get their name wrong. I apologize. The Center, I call them the Center for Health, yes, someone help me out here.
Black Health and Equity.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Yes, I couldn't quite figure out the combination of those words. Yes, the Center for Black Health and Equity. And Shayla Compton is our partner down there, and she's working with the local chapter of NCNW and a really good team. So some local advocacy work happening down in that Charleston market. The other really exciting efforts that we have going on is back up in the upstate in Greer. And we are looking, really focusing in on smoke-free communities. We had such a swell of smoke-free communities come on board and join that effort. And then it just kind of went flat. And so we haven't had any in a while. So we're trying to reinvigorate local smoke-free campaigns. So if anyone on this call is interested in learning more and looking at your community, if the timing is right, let me know, let our partners know. We'd love to help you on that. So the city of Greer is working on local smoke-free, and they are moving along with their campaign really well. And we're so excited for them. They have some coalition members there. They're moving ahead. They're gaining momentum. Right now they're trying to build that groundswell, that grassroots, that they can kind of give coverage to the local city council. So excited for them and the work that they are doing. we have a call today with another community in the upstate who's interested in looking at smoke-free. So excited to hear and talk with them. And we are just hoping to build this momentum with smoke-free. Again, we had it one time, but we still, we don't have even close to 50% of our population in the state covered under a smoke-free ordinance. And so we're not at the point then to ask for a statewide ordinance. And so we have some work to do. The other thing I wanted to mention is you may have seen in the news, there was an article that was published a few weeks ago that Barbara brought to my attention. So thank you, Barbara, for doing that. It was an article about 5 Points and the number of vape shops in 5 Points, which is in Columbia, downtown Columbia. So the city council is investigating, they're looking, they're seeing, they're talking about what can they do in relation to retail density for the vape shops, the number of vape shops that are in 5 Points. So this is developing, breaking news, developing. Yarly Seeley, I think I saw, or I think she texted me and said she's on the call. I can't see her, but Yarly and I are kind of seeing what's happening with the city. What can we do to help them? Do they need our help? Can we encourage them in some other ways to do some other really big things and make a really good impact with the city of Columbia? So it's exciting to hear what they're doing and try to figure out how can we do that. You may remember a few years ago, we worked with the city of Myrtle Beach a little bit as they created this overlay zoning district on the boardwalk in Myrtle Beach, was the Mayor Bethune called it a family-friendly atmosphere, and she did not want vape shops popping up all over the boardwalk. That in turn, that local campaign in turn really played a part as we fought back preemption at the state level. So all of these local campaigns that you guys are working on, it all plays back into our state issues and our state campaigns, and always at the top of our mind is preemption. And how do we fight back? I always feel like we're either in the middle of a preemption fight or we're preparing for a preemption fight. That's where we are in South Carolina always. So we are in that preparing stage for the preemption fight, but these local campaigns are so very important. So quick update on where we are. The final thing I wanted to share, and I will be under 6 minutes maybe, is the Children's Committee. We have a really great and strong Joint Legislative and Citizens Committee on Children in South Carolina. And this is really, it has been an avenue for us to talk about tobacco issues at the state level. The Children's Committee introduced the state tobacco retail licensing bill, and we are hopeful they may consider doing it again this year. So it's exciting to work with them, and they have this opportunity coming up for you guys. So you can sign up to share testimony. It's okay, you're not lobbying. You can share from your professional experience. You can share with this team from your knowledge about tobacco and how it impacts children, how it impacts adults that take care of our children. So I want to encourage you to look at their schedule, and I'm going to put, when I finish talking, I will put the link in the chat box so you can check out this Children's Committee and you can see what they're doing, who they are. And then if you are interested in sharing testimony with this Children's Committee, please let us know, because I'm happy to help you prepare your testimony. I'm happy to go with you. I know that that Yarly Seeley from Hart and I will be sharing testimony at some of these events, but they have 4 different hearings around the state. So you don't have to travel too far. The first one starts the end of September, and it's going to be in Florence. So they're going to be in Florence, Charleston, Greenville, and Columbia. They'll host 2 in Columbia. But I encourage you to look at that and use this as an opportunity for you to share your voice, to talk about the impact of tobacco on children and their parents and the big picture, our state. So I'll put that link in the chat box, and if anyone's interested, let us know, and we'll be happy to work with you and help you prepare in any way. So that's my quick update, and I'm glad this is going to be recorded because I want to hear about rescue, but I have to jump on a Medicaid expansion call. So I'll stay with you guys for a little while if you have any questions, but thank you for letting me share, and good to see so many friends on the call today.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you, Beth.
I will pass the presentation over to Allie and Allyson from Rescue. And if anyone has any questions for Beth or Allie and Allyson throughout their presentation, feel free to type it in the chat.
Great. Hello, everyone. Thanks, Tara, and Barbara and everyone for having us today. Just give me one sec. I will get my slides pulled up here. Make sure we're all set to go. All right. Well, it's lovely to be here and see you all again. I feel like I've been on one of these calls. It's been a while. But we were invited to come share with you today a little bit of an update on the work that we've been doing with SC DHEC, the tobacco team there, Catherine and the lovely ladies over there. We've been working with you all for 4 going on 5 years now, and it's been really wonderful to bring vape prevention and cessation campaigns and programs to the state. So we thought today we would come on and just share a little update on the work that we've done this past year. We've been running a few campaigns for a few years. I think we've talked a little bit about them before, at least shared high level some information about the health communications campaigns that we've been doing. We've also in the last couple of years started running a teen vape cessation program and intervention in the state. So we wanted to give an update on how that's going and share a little bit more about it with you. So we'll jump right in here. For those of you who aren't familiar or haven't heard of Rescue, we are a full service public health behavior change marketing agency. We're based in San Diego, but we've got folks and team members all across the country. I am up in the DC area. Allyson, my colleague here, is in New Orleans, and really just, I forgot I should give more of an introduction of who we are. I'm Allie Rubinoff, and I'm the group account director here at Rescue for our tobacco control programs team. So I oversee all of the tobacco control work that we do at Rescue, working with all our clients across the country, across the teen vape prevention work and campaigns that we do, the adult and teen cessation work as well. And I've been at Rescue almost 5 years, so just about as long as we've been working with you all in South Carolina. Allyson, do you want to give a quick introduction?
Yeah, I'm Allyson Cavaliere. I am based out of New Orleans, as Allie said, and I'm a senior account manager here at Rescue. So I help facilitate and oversee some of our client relationships. And I have worked with SC DHEC since they started with us in the beginning. I originally was helping out with our country events and then moved into overseeing the account as a whole. And I've been at Rescue for almost 5 years. And yeah, I think that about covers it.
Great. Yeah, so we are a full service team. That means that we oversee all of the research, strategy, creative, media implementation, and execution of the work that we do. Really everything that Rescue does has a science-driven approach. We have a really robust research team that leads all of our formative research and evaluation, so that all the work that we put out there is as evidence-based as possible. So we thought we would just start with a quick overview of the campaigns that we've been running in South Carolina for the last couple of years. And I thought this is a nice sort of way to visualize the work that we're doing in this teen vaping ecosystem. It's really the heart of the work is with South Carolina teens. And we've sort of taken this approach, I think when we first started working with DHEC, we were really looking at how do we reach teens the most equitable, but also and taking into consideration their risk, but also their lifestyle. And we had this multi-pronged approach with sort of different campaigns and different messaging for different clusters or peer crowds of teens. And that's still part of our approach today, although the vaping, when we started, the work was really focused on tobacco as right as the time I think the vaping epidemic was blowing up. And so we, a few years into the contract, introduced Behind the Haze, which is a campaign that Rescue created and licenses out across the country, which is our response to the vaping epidemic. It is a campaign for teens to educate teens about vaping and the risks and the dangers of vaping. And it's really meant for all teens. And so we've had to shift a little bit in sort of the approach that we take because vaping kind of came in and really blew up the landscape of really what was motivating teens to vape, who was at risk. Very different, as you all know, from traditional cigarettes. So the landscape of what we're doing in South Carolina currently is that we have sort of our prevention campaigns, Behind the Haze, which is reaching teens across the state, and Down and Dirty, which is the campaign that we've been running since the beginning, which is really geared towards the country lifestyle. So teens who are a little bit more rural, potentially, not always. Allyson will talk a little bit more about that audience in a little bit, but this is sort of an additional layer because we know that country teens are, these teens are at higher risk for vaping, for smoking cigarettes, and also for other things like tobacco, like chew and smokeless tobacco products. And so we run that campaign to make sure that we're providing messaging in a really relevant way that's unique to that sort of culture and lifestyle and the social norms of that group. And really these two campaigns focus a lot on communicating the health consequences of vaping, educating on the chemicals and the harmful ingredients, depicting sort of a little bit more about what addiction looks like. And when I say health consequences, definitely including mental health as well, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. And as we sort of get further along, and this sort of on the top here of this slide is sort of the spectrum of use. We started to see more and more in the last few years, teens talking about wanting to quit and being interested in quitting, and teens that have been using and are more regular users. There's been a increase in the desire to quit. But what we learned and what we found out is teens really just don't know how. It's not something that is familiar to them, and typical sort of the standard quit line approach is not really tailored to teens, to their lifestyle, to their understanding of quitting process. A lot of teens were saying they were trying to just quit on their own and quit cold turkey, and to no surprise, that wasn't working. So we at Rescue developed a program called Quit the Hit, and it is a social media based intervention to help teens learn how to quit vaping in a group setting, a social setting, which is sort of modeling the setting in which they start vaping in the first place. And so Allyson will tell us a little bit more about that campaign and what we've been doing and some of the results so far in South Carolina. But we've been really excited to layer that work in, and we're really pleased with how it's been going. So with that, I think I skipped a slide. Oh no. I will turn it over to Allyson. She's going to tell a little bit more about Down and Dirty and show some fun videos of some of the campaigns that we ran in this past year.
Thanks, Allie. Yeah, so Down and Dirty, as Allie mentioned, is a campaign that we have been running since the beginning of our work with SC DHEC. It's a tobacco-free lifestyle brand for country teens, and it reaches teens age 13 to 20 who are considered country or rural in South Carolina. So these teens are usually interested in things like trucks, mudding, fishing, hunting, and other activities like that. And I'm sure all of you living in South Carolina know that there is a pretty big population of these teens in the state. And country teens, we know from our research, don't respond the same to messaging that is directed towards the general public. They have a little bit of stubbornness about them. And I say that with love because I also live in Louisiana, so I'm very familiar. And so what we did was we developed Down and Dirty years ago as a social brand that uses country teen values like family, work ethic, working hard for your money, things like that, to promote a tobacco-free lifestyle. So kind of opposite of what the Marlboro Man did, where he said, if you're a man, you smoke Marlboro. And we kind of took Down and Dirty and did the opposite. We said it's not country to chew dip or use tobacco and things of that nature. So as I mentioned, we've been running them since the beginning of our contract. Our first message package, which is our media campaigns, ran in early 2019. Since then, we've run 7 total media campaigns and executed 2 in-person events and 1 online sweepstakes. And then on the next slide, we're going to be able to see the most recent message package that we actually did with Down and Dirty. This is the flagship video.
Big plans cost money. If you spend that money on vaping, you're missing out. 6 months of vaping will run you over $700. That's a lot of camping gear. Over a year, it's common to spend up to $1,500. You get a boat for that. After 2 years, could be double. Personally, I'd rather have a set of wheels, but that's the thing. When you vape, those big plans go up in smoke. Save your money for the stuff that matters by living vape free.
Awesome. So that was one of our newer spots that focus more on vape. But with Down and Dirty, since we know country teens are more susceptible to still using cigarettes and smokeless, we have several media campaigns that have messaging weaved in about dip and other tobacco products. So on this slide, you can see our most recent Down and Dirty evaluation, which was in 2020. We actually have one in the works. We're waiting on some IRB approvals, but we have our newest evaluation starting within the next month or so. So this is a little bit outdated, but not too much. And so these are from our 2020 tracker, and it showed that country teens in South Carolina, their agreement with anti-vape and anti-chew statements significantly increased between year 1 and year 2 of implementation of Down and Dirty in South Carolina. So that's just something of note. And then on the next slide, we're going to move into Behind the Haze, which is our larger vaping prevention campaign that Allie had mentioned. It targets teens 13 to 18 years old in South Carolina, and it delivers facts to teens. So it's more, rather than like value-based messaging, it's more factual, based on current knowledge, attitude, and beliefs associated with vaping behaviors. And our goal is to increase the perceived risks with messages that are relevant and motivating, and reduce that social appeal for vaping. And our first Behind the Haze media campaign ran in January of 2020, and we've since run 6 different media campaigns, and this one off that you're about to see is the most recent.
Some days you just feel off, anxious, low, on edge. And vaping nicotine can make days like this worse and more common. Because nicotine throws off the natural balance of neurotransmitters in your brain, like dopamine and serotonin, which affects your mood. So you feel more unhappy and less like yourself. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
See how vaping can mess with your mental health at behindthehaze.com.
Awesome. So now I will pass it off to Allie to go through our most recent findings from the Behind the Haze evaluation.
Great, thank you. So we actually recently completed a follow-up survey for the Behind the Haze campaign. So as Allyson mentioned, we've been evaluating these 2 campaigns over the years with online surveys that we conduct annually is so this one for Behind the Haze this year, we just completed this data collection in May. We surveyed 244 teens representing 36 counties across South Carolina. And so this report is fresh off the presses, and we're just going to share a few highlights with you all, which I think will be interesting to see. And it's always nice to show the progress and the impact that our campaigns are having. So as Allyson mentioned, one of the big goals of the campaign is to increase the perceived risk, right? To educate these teens, give them information so that they start to understand and see vaping as something that can harm them and is harmful. So what we've been able to see here, and this shows the year-over-year comparison. So we started with we did a baseline in 2019 before we layered Behind the Haze in to the landscape of what we were doing in South Carolina. And so this is our year 2 tracker. So we've got 3 years of data, and we've been seeing that perceptions of risk have been gradually increasing since baseline, which is really great. The greatest shifts in perceived risks that we've seen over time are related to the risks of lung damage and addiction. 2 areas, we've had a lot of campaigns educating around the health risks. And addiction is something, it's really great to see that starting to shift, because what we often see with teens is that, they don't really look at addiction as a risk. They're not necessarily, teens think they're invincible. They think they're in control of their addictions. They think that they don't necessarily, a lot of times are not perceiving themselves to be addicted. So starting to see some movement in teens understanding that there is risk in addiction is really great to see. We've also started to see some significant shifts in perceived risks, even with occasional vape use, right? So a lot of times early on in our surveys and discussions with teens, we would hear that, teens don't necessarily think there's any harm if they only vape occasionally from time to time socially. And we're starting to see teens understand that there are risks that come along with occasional use as well. In addition, mental health. So we layered in this year new perceived risk statements around how vaping can negatively impact teens' mental health and their relationships. This has become a really big issue with teens across the country, outside of the relationship with vape behaviors, just the mental health crisis that has been significantly compounded, I think, by the pandemic over the last few years, and just a lot going on. And so it's become extremely apparent to us that teens were using substances and vapes as ways to cope or deal with stress. And so we've been really digging into this a little bit more. As you saw with the mental health spot, it's been a huge focus of how the messages that we've been layering into the Behind the Haze campaign. And so this shows that, a majority of the participants felt that vaping nicotine can impact mental health negatively, and were concerned about how vaping could affect their emotions. And so this tracker, the timing of this tracker aligned nicely with when we had our that off messaging in market. So showing good signs that message was being well received. Moving on. We continue to track the reasons teens say that they vape. And, initially in, earlier years of this campaign and just research that we've conducted, we do trackers like this across the country. A lot of the reasons for vaping that teens said that they vaped usually fell around, my friends are doing it. They were curious, a lot of social driven reasons. And what we've seen in this past year or two is an increase in really this mental health reason, right? To deal with stress, anxiety, depression, and or to relax rising to the top. So in this case, this was amongst past 30-day vape users, 60% cited mental health reasons as why they use vapes. And of course, intention to quit. So as I was saying earlier, and we'll dig into a little more, in our year 2 follow-up, we saw a large majority of current vape users reporting intentions to quit vaping. About 84% shared that they have some intention of quitting within the next 6 months. Intentions to quit vaping within 6 months has been increasing since baseline, as you'll see on the left here, which suggests an increased urgency to quit. And we saw this big jump in 2020, which was part of the reason that we introduced Quit the Hit to the South Carolina market. Those who have who vaped frequently in the past 30 days were significantly more likely than occasional users to report that they were seriously considering quitting. So, this continues to reinforce the need for teen-tailored vape cessation resources like Quit the Hit. And quit attempts, again, this also sort of reinforcing this need for specifically teen-tailored resources and interventions, because we're seeing teens are trying to quit not successfully. So vape users reported on the number of times they've tried to stop vaping for 1 day or longer in the past 12 months. And we heard in this particular survey, 69% of users tried to quit at least once, and multiple quit attempts were common. So 44% reporting 2 or more quit attempts. So again, teaching teens, giving them the skills and the understanding of the quitting process, how to successfully quit, is extremely important. And what you'll see on the right here is also just an exciting metric that teens who reported being aware of Behind the Haze campaign, especially those who recalled the campaign messaging, were significantly more likely to have tried to quit in the past 12 months compared to those who were not campaign aware. So this is a really exciting data point to have, to just show, Quit the Hit is, Behind the Haze is, predominantly a prevention campaign, but we target all teens, right, within that age range across the state. So teens across that spectrum of use are going to be receiving that messaging on their social media platforms. And so knowing that teens who have been exposed to the campaign, the messaging is resonating, and many of them are attempting to quit as a result, or knowing that they're more likely. Teens who've seen the campaign are more likely, just shows that our messages are resonating and getting across to these teens, which is wonderful. And so that's a little some highlights of that report. And I'm going to pass it back to Allyson to talk to you a little bit more about Quit the Hit and talk about how the program works, and we'll share some of the early data from that program as well.
Thanks, Allie. Yeah, so as Allie mentioned, Quit the Hit is our newest cessation program. It's an online cessation support group for teens who want to quit vaping. It includes 5 weeks of online quit support within Instagram direct messages. So it's a group DM, and it typically includes 12 to 15 teens with active facilitation. So our group facilitator is checking in daily and keeping the conversation moving each day. The program strategy is to show that quitting is easier when you do it together with the support of peers instead of by yourself. And this program was born out of a partnership we had with UC San Francisco and Hope Lab, which is a think tank in Silicon Valley. And our goal was to bridge the gap between what currently existed for teens cessation wise and what they needed, because we knew that teens were not going to pick up the phone and call a quit line. There was a nervousness about that. And based on our research, what we saw was a lot of teens felt like maybe their addiction wasn't bad enough to call a quit line, or maybe their parents would find out if they called. And they felt like they were doing it alone. They thought, I don't know any other teens that are quitting. All of my friends currently vape. And so Quit the Hit is a way for them to quit with other people who are their peers, and to show them that they are not the only person trying to quit. And it is something that they can do within a platform that they use every day already, right? They're already on Instagram. So for them to just check that group DM is not as much of an ask than having them call a quit line, which seems a little bit more intimidating. And then on the next slide, we have a video that kind of walks through the day-to-day of the program. Awesome. So as you can see, it's very, very personal. It's the teens within the groups get comfortable with one another and they're talking every day. So it's definitely different from like an automated text system or a quit line where it feels like they're on this journey alone. And so on this slide, you can see our recruitment methods. So how it works is we run recruitment ads on different social channels. For South Carolina, we were doing it on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. When we're running a Behind the Haze campaign, we have ads that also drive to Quit the Hit. And then we also have a referral program. And so when they get these ads or get referred to the program, they can go on the landing page, which is quitthehitnow.com. And from there, they see if they qualify based on their vape use, their age, and then their zip code to make sure they're within the state. And then they qualify and sign up. And from there, they do a baseline survey. And after the baseline, our facilitator will reach out, or they will reach out to the facilitator on Instagram and get added to the group. And then they go through the group, which is 5 weeks. And afterwards, they are sent follow-up surveys, and they do earn incentives for completing surveys. So that's another incentive for being within the program. So we do the first follow-up survey at the end of the group, and then another one 60 days after the group ends. So then we can go into some of the results that we've seen so far. And this is for year 2 in South Carolina. So we have run this program for 2 years, and we're working on creating a comprehensive look at both years. But the data here is just year 2 because the methods we were using changed slightly, so it wouldn't be a direct comparison. But as you can see, the past 30-day vape use decreased significantly from the original baseline survey to the follow-up survey across the entire sample. And also the average number of days used in the past 30 days decreased significantly. And so for the past 30-day use, I will say that within the program, the teens set a quit date together, and it's not usually on day one of the program. So they prepare for their quit day. And then often it's like, I think on day 12 or something like that, like it's a few weeks into the program. So when you look at past 30-day vape use, we're not expecting that number to go all the way to 0 because their quit day was less than 30 days ago at that point, at that first follow-up. The final follow-up is really what we look at. And then also, I think the average number of days vaped in the past 30 days is a really good indicator of teens working towards quitting vaping. All right, and on this slide, participants were asked to report their confidence in staying nicotine-free for the next 6 months. In the baseline, only 17% indicated that they were highly confident in their ability to stay nicotine-free. High confidence increased to 70% in the final follow-up survey. So this is something that we are looking at pretty closely because one of the main ways we're measuring success with the Quit the Hit program is by our ability to increase teens' confidence in themselves to quit vaping, because we know that it can take several times to quit. So what this program does is it gives them the tools and that social support so that even if they fail once, they know that they can do it again because they've done it before and now they have the tools. And it is not a requirement of the program for them to actually quit. Our goal is to just provide them with the resources to do so. And then on the next slide, I know somebody had asked about other products, other tobacco products use, and we actually do ask about this for for Quit the Hit, sorry. Because one of the unintended consequences that we're seeing is that along with teens quitting vape, they're using these tools that they're given within the program to reduce their use of other products as well. So you can see that there was a significant decrease in the past 30-day use of marijuana vapes from the baseline to initial follow-up. So overall, across the board, we're seeing the use of other products decrease as well. And on the following slide, we have, these are just examples of conversations. These are teens in South Carolina. So you can see, you can get a better idea about the accountability and peer support that we have. And they also they go into those raw, tough emotions and have difficult conversations with one another. So they do get close and are able to open up within that safe space, and it makes the quitting process easier. Awesome. So overall, for year 1 and year 2 in South Carolina, we have run 24 total groups. We've had 347 in-group participants. And then for our follow-up surveys, we've had 172 people complete them so far. And we're hoping to keep these numbers going up, but this is really, really awesome. And so looking ahead, as we mentioned, we are in year 5 of our contract with SC DHEC. So what we're planning on doing this year is similar to what we have done the past 2 years, I believe. So we have 2 Behind the Haze MPs, 2 Down and Dirty MPs, and then Quit the Hit groups running. We are going to do that Down and Dirty evaluation within the next few months, and then we'll have another evaluation at the end of the year, as well as a Behind the Haze evaluation. For the message packages that we're running, we are actually doing new spots that we just created. So for Behind the Haze, we're going to be doing sharing addiction. And the main messaging for that MP is just that sharing vapes means sharing nicotine addiction. And it means also sharing the health risks that impact the body and the mind. So that one focuses more on sharing vapes with your friends. And then for Down and Dirty, our first MP is also a brand new spot that just went into production. And it's ain't running right. And the message for that one is that the nicotine in vapes can contaminate your brain like dirt and car oil. And that's why when you vape, you ain't running right. So yeah, I think that about sums it up. Did y'all have any questions for Allie or I?
I'm sure we will. Thank you so much. It was a wonderful presentation. We had a lot of questions in the chat group that y'all answered. So if you are not looking at the chats, please do. And I have a few questions, but I don't want to go first. Dave, do you have a question?
Yeah, I was wondering, with the marijuana piece, I just kind of noticed that in one of the last slides that vaping with marijuana was kind of leveled off. What's your experience with that? We have in our area, down into the middle schools, kids that are vaping marijuana.
So, oh, sorry, go ahead, Allie.
I was gonna say, so just to clarify, this slide was showing the sort of the results from the Quit the Hit program. So what this is really showing is sort of the unintended consequence, right? The Quit the Hit program is educating teens about quitting vaping. But what we are seeing is that it's actually also reducing the rates for the participants of their use rates for vaping marijuana. So which is, an interesting bonus of the program that they're not just stopping vaping nicotine, but it's getting them to stop other, using other products as well. But yes, we are seeing what you are seeing across the country and other states, the rates of co-use of marijuana, vaping, nicotine and vaping marijuana continuing to increase and being a very prominent trend. We actually just completed some research in Indiana around co-use, which has been really interesting. And we are actually going to start developing for Indiana, layering in some sort of co-use messaging into Behind the Haze there, as their tobacco control division is partnering with their substance use division to sort of work together in that after we've sort of been seeing these trends and did some really deep research. So it's certainly something we're keeping our eye on. We're seeing those trends. I do believe in our Behind the Haze trackers, and again, we just shared some snippets, we do ask about other products. And so there is data in there that Catherine and the DHEC team will have in the full report that we share with them for the most recent numbers and what we're seeing in South Carolina, at least from our surveys around co-use.
All right, thank you. Yeah.
Something interesting, or that I found really interesting with this is that vaping kind of created a unique connection between substance use and tobacco use, because teens that were not at risk for using marijuana now have begun to vape because it's seen as a safe way to rebel. It seems safer than cigarettes and other things. And so once they've opened that door to vaping, then the marijuana vapes is not such a leap. So it has opened the door to a different group of teens who we previously would have considered not at risk, being more at risk for those things.
Good stuff. Yeah, we partner with our in our county with our alcohol and drug abuse 2 agencies, and I'll make sure they see this recording, and this is great information for all of us.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting sort of newer area of exploration. I think we're still sort of, like Allyson was saying, there's still this need for education to teens, sort of the at risk for vaping nicotine teens, that recognizes that they're not, the typical teens who are at risk for substance use, right? Because we know that the teens who would never have picked up a cigarette never have used real, harder drugs are vaping because there's sort of this perception that they were harmless. And so there's still a need for that messaging. But then there's this other sort of additional audience, this separate sort of higher risk teen that where that co-use is really like the more they vape, there's this other set of teens who are sort of using nicotine vapes and marijuana vapes sort of interchangeably.
Yeah.
So I
Hi,
had a-
Allison.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, this is
Hey,
Evita.
Rita, go ahead.
Hi, this is Evita with Building Healthy Military Communities. Allie and Allison, I have a question for you. I noticed that your age groups goes up to 18 and 21 in some cases for your programs that you are running, Behind the Haze and Down and Dirty and Quit the Hit. Do you have any questions on there that identify any of these as military, not only dependents or military affiliated children?
I don't think that we do. I would say the only way that we would have that information would be if it's something that's mentioned within the Quit the Hit groups, but all of that information is confidential to everybody other than the facilitator. So we wouldn't have that available.
Okay, so even in your prevention pieces that you provide where you're questioning your participants, that's not a question that could be added, just to kind of get a gauge, because the reason I ask, because this is one of the issues we're facing in the military with retention because of the health implications of tobacco and cessation, how it's impacting the health, the long-term ability to function in the military. So I would love to know if that's something that we can definitely find out. How is this impacting those that are affiliated with the military? Are there, and not only that, the resource that you're providing, is it getting to that military population of kids as well? Are you hitting the school system? That's a big piece that I would love to see work. I did 13 years in the Department of Education, and I would love to see how we're in the school system asking these questions. I know a lot of them are doing it. What are their education that they're receiving on this as well?
Yeah.
It might be a good project for you to float by the School of Public Health. Master's program students are looking for projects. It might be something that a master's student could do some work, certainly in conjunction with, this data as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense, Evita, and obviously understand that that's a huge impact from that perspective. It has not been historically a question in our screeners for our participants, but if it was something that DHEC was interested in adding, we certainly could look into it.
Okay, thank you. I had that conversation with them. Thank you.
Yeah,
I had a couple of questions. The agrees with statements like I agree that vaping is bad. How does that correlate to use, or do you not really look at that? I mean, knowing it and then listening to it are two, and walking the walk are two different things. Do y'all have any data on that? So once I know it's bad, do they?
So so within our trackers, we ask both sets of questions, right? So we're asking their perceived risk, like how risky are they perceiving it? And we're also asking use. And you're right, a lot of times there are teens that know that there's a risk, but they're still using. And when that happens, what we focus more on is our cessation programs. With our prevention messaging, what we're aiming to do is to give that education that there are risks associated, so that the people who are unaware of the risk but are still using because it's seen as safer are made more aware of the risks of vaping.
And I guess my second question would be, is there a media that we can put on our sites, our Instagrams or whatever, to drive people towards these campaigns?
Yeah, I can jump in and yeah, just on your first note, I think Allyson answered this, but just to sort of reinforce the Behind the main audience for Behind the Haze is a sort of at risk, sort of lower use, maybe occasional or ever use audience. So the majority of the participants are going to fall into that category. We do recruit participants who are more frequent users. And we, when we do and analyze these results, we can look at, the difference between, low use, higher use. But the majority of these participants are going to be, as Allyson was saying, those more infrequent or at risk use, because the goal is really to prevent use. And to your point, Barbara, so yeah, there's lots of ways that we could do that. There's always the social channels where we run the campaigns are, Behind the Haze SC is the handle. And anyone is always welcome to go and share from that channel. I think that's like the best way to repost, share to your channels, so that it's directly connected back, right? That it's the easiest way for then if someone sees your post or, whoever your audience is can connect back to our main pages and like them and follow them. We always recommend, rather than posting your own content, to just share from from those channels. And then, if there was interest and it's something we can talk to the DHEC team about, we have in the past sort of put together little toolkits for partners that, can provide you with an overview of sort of the message packages as they're launching. So, as Allyson showed, we've got 2 sort of different campaigns for each brand that we're planning to launch this year. And so we always can sort of provide a little one-sheeter that gives you some high-level information of what this campaign, the messaging of the campaign, and maybe some sample copy that you can use on your channels to share out the same content, right? That we use for the campaign to promote it. But the best way to do that is always to share it from our channels.
And that's what I meant. I didn't mean for y'all to come up with new tools for us. I just
and that's what I figured you meant. Yes, we definitely have done that in other places, just to help spread the messages and amplify the campaigns if that's of interest.
And then live presentations, y'all mentioned that you had done a couple of live events. Do you have any planned in the near future?
We do not.
Okay.
We stopped doing live events with the onset of COVID for obvious reasons. And it's a pretty big lift to do these events, and we're able to reach way more teens online as things currently are. There is an opportunity in the future to maybe look at re-implementing in-person events, but just since the pandemic, it hasn't been a viable option.
Totally understand that.
Just to play a little bit the devil's advocate, who are the critics of your work, and what are the kinds of things that they're putting up, for you to respond to?
So we do, teens are teens. So we do get a lot of trolls on some of our social media ads. I would say it's probably more prevalent with Down and Dirty, unsurprisingly, because country teens are very territorial, I guess is a way to put it. So if they ever feel like, we've had commercials where teens will comment critiquing the way that the performer is holding a bow, saying, his elbow needs to be up more, or things of that nature. We've also had people critique accents because when we're creating video spots, obviously we can't have somebody who has a Louisiana Southern accent and a South Carolina Southern accent and an Arkansas Southern accent. So Southern accents vary from state to state. And so we do have teens that will say, that's a fake accent. They're not really from South Carolina. And oftentimes it's because the teen is from, a different Southern state where the Southern accent has a slightly different twang to it. So
Mhm.
I would say things like that. We do have teens within Behind the Haze and Down and Dirty that will try to challenge our facts. They'll say, well, yeah, there's lead in vapes, but there's also lead in, everything else you eat in small amounts. It's safe for you. And so when they say things like that, we'll just have to, we link to our studies and our resources and correct any misperceptions that are there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just generally, across the board and all our vape and tobacco work, we sort of call it Vape Nation, the troll. There's people who just continually believe that, they question our facts, everything we're doing in Behind the Haze. And if you look on the Behind the Haze site, we have put a lot of sources on there. Every sort of fact and information has a little like prove it button where we link the full studies where information comes from. But there's just a large contingent of population who still sort of refuses to believe the facts. That goes for lots of things, not just tobacco, but yeah, so they're always out there. They, or continue to think like it's still better than smoking, that kind of thing, which, we understand is a large spectrum. And when it comes to adults, and it's very different. So, we try to just reinforce, here's the data, here's the study, here are the facts. We're presenting facts to you, but it's something that continues to be there, and we try not to engage too much.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Just a
helpful.
quick
Yeah.
question. So how will be the first step to start running this Down and Dirty campaign within your community? Is step that we have to take, or is I feel like in the community that I work for, that's the biggest struggle among teens. And every time I try to do a presentation, I get so much pushback. If I can follow some sort of like agenda or curriculum, or get the help from someone where we can collaborate and work towards this campaign, it will be such a great.
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, these campaigns run statewide in South Carolina. So they're already in your community. You might not have seen them because you're not in the target demographic, right? So that is kind of part of the strategy behind what we do, is that we're targeting teens directly on social channels where we know they're already spending their time. So they're seeing our messaging and our ads in their in their Instagram feeds, on Facebook, on Snapchat, when they're watching YouTube and they get an ad. So we're getting the message directly to them from a, not from like this authority figure, which is part of the strategy of like, we purposely don't brand the campaign with like South Carolina Department of Health, right? Like any sort of authoritative figure, because we know that kind of immediately turns teens off from listening if they know it's coming from, someone from the state health department, from, teachers and that kind of thing. So we've created this brand that, with really youth friendly branding, and, that sort of mimics a lot of the brands that teens know and like, and that has a really youthful vibe that will catch their attention, to try to get these messages in front of them in a different way. But yes, I think Catherine put some information in the chat there to connect with her. But just know that yes, this campaign is statewide across South Carolina.
Yeah, you did mention 36 counties in one slide. What happened with the other 10?
So that was, that was just for our most recent tracker. And, those are the 36 counties that were included this time. It could be different counties next time. It's just based on who we're able to recruit. So we do recruitment for the online trackers, and it's based on who responds. So sometimes counties with higher population are going to have more people responding to our recruitment ads.
Can we find out whether we're included, in our home county, or is that something that you have to keep quiet?
What is your county?
York County, up in the border county in the north of near Charlotte?
Let me see. I can actually pull it up.
Mhm.
You said it's in the north.
Yeah, north central South Carolina, York County. Yeah.
Okay, it looks like all of the northern bordering counties were included.
Okay. That's great to know. All right. Well,
Yeah,
we'll
we
definitely-
the way we recruit for these trackers is the same way. Like we're recruiting from the same audience pool that we run the campaign with, right? So we use social media ads on the same channels with the same sort of targeting parameters that we use for the campaign to recruit participants to sign up to take the tracker. And as we know, it's very hard to get teens to do these types of things. And so, you know, that's we hope to get the most representative sample as we can.
Okay.
Yeah, it actually looks like we had six of the participants for the tracker were within York County, from what I can tell from our map.
Great. Well, yeah, this has been a great presentation. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I did want to say that on our website is, I just sent it in the chat box as a link to our vape talk, if that is something that people are interested in here. It's a presentation for parents, geared toward parents and guardians, but we are looking at revamping it to also make it for kids. So I put the link in there for that. But Allie and Allyson, that was a great presentation. Thank you so much. A lot of great information on the impact that you're having, and that I think we knew basics about your programs, but seeing what a great impact it's had is wonderful. It's great.
Yes. Thank y'all both for joining us again.
Thanks to
Oh,
DHEC,
thanks for having us.
you know, continuing to allow us to do this great work in South Carolina. We're excited for another great year ahead.
Yeah. Thanks to Catherine Warner too, and the
Yes.
DHEC team for, you know, making all this happen. Yeah.
Yay, Catherine.
Yay.
Yes, this is Estelle with the Garnet Lighting Program. Yes, I got a lot of helpful information. And I would like to reach out to some of you because I'm the coordinator, but we're always looking for new topics to share with our guardian ad litem, you know, and vaping. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things that's coming up with our children right now. And I know that this is being recorded. I may want to share it with my staff at some point or my supervisor. How would we get a copy of this recording?
It'll be on our website.
Yeah, I noticed, Estelle, you joined when Beth was presenting, but
Right.
Barbara mentioned at the beginning. So all of our meetings are recorded, and we post the video onto our website. So if you go to, I can put the link in the chat bar for you, but if you go to smokefreesc.org, there's a section called Roundtable, Tobacco Partners Roundtable, and that's where all the videos are.
Okay. Thank you so much. And again, the information is very helpful. And Catherine, I will be reaching out to you for those resources.
Great, great. And thanks again, everyone. I wanted to add something real quick, which is just a reminder that even though that like this is great information, and I'm glad that everybody wants to access it and take it with them and learn more about it. But one thing that we've been very careful of, and I think it's why a lot of people have not been aware the work that DHEC has been doing with rescue and up until the last couple of years, is because, you know, as soon as the teenagers find out that adults know what this is, it sort of reduces its legitimacy. So when you talk about it and when you share, just keep that in mind. Kids are really smart. And as soon as they see that Down and Dirty, Quit the Hit, Behind the Haze are connected in something to their parents know about, or that their aunts and uncles know about, or that they're, you know, that it starts to, you know, it's bad enough if they get it at school, but, you know, and it feels like it's something that they found on their own kind of organically. They also know that they're being marketed to heavily as well. But so just keep that in mind, that, you know, the more we can keep it feeling like it's a cool thing for teenagers that grownups don't really know about, then I think that serves us better in the long run.
Great point.
Yeah, that organic recruitment is important.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so if we don't have any other questions, I would like to remind everyone that this is a monthly meeting. You know, we meet monthly to talk about different topics in the world of tobacco prevention. Our next meeting is September the 30th. It's always the last Friday of the month. So we meet on September 30th, and we are going to have speakers who are talking about Can Quit. And that's a program targeting individuals who are going through cancer treatments who are smokers. So we are having individuals come speak about that. We're excited to learn more about that program and excited for you to learn more about that program. So I
Yep, you muted yourself, sweetie.
when that happened. But sorry, I put the link in the chat bar so you can go ahead and register for September's roundtable meeting. But as always, it'll go out in our newsletter if you're not able to catch it to register today. But we'll meet again in September to hear about our Can Quit program.
Thank you again. Wonderful.